2013 would be the end of the V8 era, but would it signal the end of Sebastian Vettel's run of titles? There were plenty of contenders hoping to stop him, but there could only be one world champion. Formula One isn't all sunshine and glamour. Winter coats and woolly hats must mean it's winter testing. This is the first chance to see what might be in store for the new season. In 2012, 8 drivers took to the top step of the podium, and all were eager to get back there in 2013. Massa did all the work for Ferrari in Jerez before Alonso got down to business in Barcelona. With only one driver confirmed at Force India, it was all down to Di Resta. Red Bull didn't need to make any changes, and Hamilton made the jump to Mercedes alongside Rosberg. Sergio Perez filled his vacant seat at McLaren. Grosjean had the full support and encouragement from Lotus senior management. But Raikkonen was still the top man. Hulkenberg had high expectations after making the switch to Sauber, but could Mexican rookie Esteban Gutierrez impress? Valtteri Bottas hoped to become the next flying Finn, and teammate Maldonado wanted more wins. Ricciardo and Verne stayed put at Toro Rosso. And Van der Garde and Pique took over at Caterham. Max Chilton arrived at Marussia with Luis Razia and Jules Bianchi keen to snap up the second seat. Several teams unveiled their cars at the Circuit de Catalunya, the second of the 3 pre-season tests. Williams was keen to put theory into practice, but stumbled at the first hurdle. In mid-February, the exhaust outlets on both the Williams and Caterham were found to be illegal. Both were advised to rethink their designs before the first race to avoid falling foul of the stewards. There were personnel changes aplenty. Simon Rennie took over as Webber's race engineer, while Kyron Pilbeam became chief race engineer at Lotus. Pirelli introduced softer compounds and new constructions for this year in an attempt to ensure at least 2 pit stops a race and open up the strategic options. The sidewall markings were improved, and now orange indicated the hard compound. Finding the limit of the tyres quickly was crucial, but with just 12 days and low track temperatures, it wasn't easy. Everyone kept a close eye on what their rivals were up to. But secrecy is the name of the game, and no one was willing to reveal their hand just yet. Vettel was on a mission to break even more records. Could he make it 4 in a row?
Well, it's still pretty difficult, I think, similar to all the other people struggling with the tyres. to make them last. For us, the feeling is good, the car feels good, the balance is all right. So those are the most important things.
Well, happy is that finally we're going racing. Is what all drivers want, no?
Not perfect, but that's. I'd rather take the problems in here than in the races.
There's so many things with this car that we're trying very hard to understand, and it's just taking a little bit more time than we would hope for.
I feel like I have a good baseline. I feel like it's something we can really work on.
I think this year, to improve the start of last year, maybe it's not so difficult. We will be strong in Australia. That is when we need to be. We need to understand these new tyres better than the others if we can, and try to make them last as much as possible.
I'm pleased, we're making progress. It's been a good winter testing. Difficult to say where we are. We'll see in Melbourne.
The remaining seat at Force India was up for grabs. Sutil hoped to reinstate his 2011 partnership with Paul di Resta, while Gilles Bianchi was in the frame after losing the Marussia seat to Razia. After a year on the sidelines, it was Sutil who got a second chance. He wasn't the only one. Bianchi joined Marussia after Razia's financial backing fell through. Alonso went into his fourth season with Ferrari 100% behind him. Sebastian deprived Fernando of a third title. Only a fool would dismiss Vettel as the favourite once again. Would Webber be able to race on equal terms with his teammate? 6 years at McLaren and only one title. Would a new start ease the pressure on Hamilton and be his best bet for the future? Rosberg proved he was a race winner, but was there more to come? Button was now McLaren's main man. Would a new, younger teammate drive him further? Raikkonen didn't care what people thought. Could a second year with Lotus bring him another title? But as everyone knows, there are no trophies for winter testing. It's the 19 races that count. Blue skies and sunshine marked the end of a long, hard winter and the start of the 2013 Formula One World Championship. Testing hadn't given away too many clues as to the pecking order, but as the cars were unpacked and the paddock took shape, the answers to all the unknowns were in reach. Hamilton had settled into his new team, but the arrival of Toto Wolff ruffled many feathers, and observers asked whether there was any room for more senior personnel at Mercedes. Reliability issues plagued their winter, and Melbourne wasn't without its setbacks. Nico suffered a gearbox issue on Friday, while Lewis had beached his car. By Saturday, the dark clouds had gathered. Literally, heavy rain delayed the start of qualifying. After 30 minutes, the session got underway, but visibility was poor and the wet curbs were lethal, as Massa found out.
I crashed, as you can see. I think I can come back.
How much damage is there?
I don't know, man. You need to check. It was not a small crash anyway.
Here we are. I'm watching the crash now. Oh, yeah. It wasn't a small crash. I think we probably lost the turning lanes as well. Okay, we're still P8.
The rain eased, but even on full wet tyres, it was easy to get caught out. Perez slid off, while Sauber new boy Gutierrez took the surfer vibe a step too far. Pique's switch to Inters didn't pay off, and he failed to set a time within 107%. In the same place as Massa, Gutierrez made a mistake, hit the barrier and brought out the red flag. The rain got worse and the stricken Sauber was retrieved, but there was no sign of the rain abating. And now the light was fading. So, for the first time ever, the stewards took the decision to split the session over 2 days. Qualifying resumed on Sunday morning. Inters were necessary at first, but on a dry track, reigning champion Sebastian Vettel stormed to his first pole position of the season. P2 for Webber ensured it was an all Red Bull front row. So while the teams prepared for the race in just a few hours' time, the drivers' parade was an opportunity for the fans to see their heroes close up and at a more leisurely pace.
Obviously it's the best position to start from. Yeah, pretty different now though with the conditions. Again, changing completely, so we'll see. It's going to be a long race. It will be important to look after tyres, but so far this weekend for sure for us has been very good.
Hulkenberg qualified his Sauber 11th, but a fuel system problem meant that he didn't even make it to the grid. It was a depressing anticlimax with his new team. The new season was just moments away, but Webber's charge looks set to be curtailed.
Do I have curves or not? Do I have curves?
Okay, no curves. Brake balance 2 clicks rearwards.
I think we get curves back or not?
We do not have curves, we are looking into it.
Would Vettel run off into the distance? With the super soft and medium tyres to play with, could an aggressive strategy pay off? For the first time in 2013, the lights went out. Sebastian maintained position while Mark was completely overwhelmed. Vettel pulled away. Second place Massa had Hamilton on his tail. Raikkonen moved up 2 places. The pack made it through turn 1 intact, but Webber had dropped down to 7th. Raikkonen was no slouch. Now he seized upon Hamilton under braking and moved up to 4th. Sutil returned from a year out of the sport. He was leading the race when he made his first stop on lap 21, while Vettel responded to Alonso's stop the previous lap and made his second visit to the pits. Adrian was the highest placed starter to opt for the medium tyres. The Force India was quick. He was able to keep up with the 3 stopping cars in front, but that had cost Sebastian time. He rejoined behind Alonso. It had been an uninspiring start to the season for Williams. So when Maldonado lost the back end of the car and found himself beached in the gravel, it pretty much summed up their weekend. Electrical gremlins put paid to Rosberg's podium aspirations on lap 27. The team knew all too well that technical failures ruined championship hopes. Lotus had taken a different approach to the race. The fact that they were easy on their tyres meant that Kimi was able to run a 2-stop strategy. He currently led, but there was still another round of stops to go. Lewis had the opposite problem. He switched from 2 stops to 3 and found his second place under pressure from Alonso. Driving like that wouldn't help his tyre predicament. Lap 34, Raikkonen made his second stop.
Okay, Kimi, watch the white line. You will be with cars as you leave the pits, close to Massa.
Kimi rejoined 5th behind Sutil and Massa, but with the others needing to pit, things were slotting into place. Ferrari had made a huge leap forward in terms of their car, and Alonso was now leading the race. With his third stop looming, he pushed to stay ahead of Vettel and chase Raikkonen. Lap 43, and only race leader Sutil was now left to stop out of the top 10. The Force Indias had turned a two-stop strategy to their advantage, but Adrian's older tyres were no match for Kimi. The predicted Red Bull domination didn't emerge. Vettel had the pace in qualifying, but he couldn't match Raikkonen's race pace just a few hours later when it mattered most. Victory is the best way to kick off the season. From 7th, Kimi Raikkonen had turned things around and took maximum points.
Okay, Kimi, absolutely fantastic job. Well done, mate. Absolutely superb, Kimi. Brilliant. Well done, mate.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Yes, I told you that the car is good.
All 5 world champions scored points, but with varying degrees of success. Strategy paid off for Raikkonen, while Alonso beat Vettel in a straight fight. McLaren had traditionally gone well in Melbourne, but Jensen knew that points were the best he could hope for at the moment. Early indications suggested that in terms of pace, Ferrari, Lotus, Red Bull and Mercedes had edged away from the rest of the pack. Win number 20 for Kimi meant he equalled the tally of compatriot Mika Häkkinen. It had been a fantastic strategic battle between Lotus, Ferrari and Red Bull, but the first round honours went to Lotus. It was thirsty work for 3 world champions. The aggressive choice of Pirelli compounds and superior tyre management of the Lotus led many to conclude that they were early contenders for the title. But would they have this advantage at every circuit? After a hectic race in Australia, it was time to take a day or two to relax and enjoy the tropical delights and exotic scenery of Malaysia. The 2013 season kicked off with a completely revolutionised Pirelli tyre range. The objective of the softer compounds was to open up more strategic options, more pit stops, and to aid overtaking. So how do the newer compounds compare to the 2012 specifications?
Quite a few things changed actually. All 4 slick compounds changed. They're softer, more aggressive, and we've also changed the structure of the tyre and tried to give it more footprint mid-corner. But also to do that we've had to reinforce the belt pack area, and that's added 700 grams to the rear tyre weight and 300 to the front. It means that the tyre is more aggressive in corners, it heats up a little bit quicker. The aim really was to try and create a little bit more degradation, because we saw at the end of last season that we're going towards a one-stop race and very, very little degradation of the tyre. So our aim is between 2 and 3 stops per race, so we're trying to maintain that. When we look back to Australia, we saw, for example, Kimi Raikkonen doing a 2-stop race, 25 laps on the medium tyre and having no degradation at all. He was going quickest at the end of his stint. So we've seen a broad spectrum. I mean, Malaysia is again, as I said, tough, and we envisaged having a tougher race here from that point of view, simply by virtue of the aggressive choices we've made and the conditions that we're encountering. That will be different, of course, when we go to other circuits.
The abrasive track surface at the first test in Jerez, combined with cool temperatures in Barcelona, meant that it was difficult to get the best from the Pirelli tyres in preparation for the first flyaway events. So how useful was the test?
The circuit's actually become more aggressive and more abrasive over the years. We've been going there for many years, many years, with different categories of racing, and we've seen a deterioration in the surface, and it's now so out of kilter really with many surfaces that we see during the season. There's only maybe 1 or 2 tracks that have any relevance really compared to Jerez. The temperatures weren't bad in reality. It wasn't as cold as the Barcelona test. Often you're getting up in the morning, there's almost sort of ice on the windows, so you're clearly in a condition that's very extreme, away from what you'd see during the F1 season. Certainly extreme compared to Malaysia. So from that point of view, it's very difficult for all concerned to understand the workings of the tyre and the compounds, and makes it very hard for them to get a good setup.
Sepang certainly presented an extreme challenge for the tyres. Weather was again the talking point on Sunday. Rain fell just before the start of the race. Reacting to the conditions would be crucial. Intermediate tyres were the only way to start. Vettel pulled clear while Alonso got the better of Massa and Webber came through from fifth. Fernando moved to the outside and made his intentions clear. But he was caught out by Vettel braking and clipped the rear of the Red Bull. He clearly had damage, but it didn't seem to be affecting his pace. The Ferrari mechanics waited. Would he pit for a new front wing? Incredibly, he went round. The team wanted to coordinate the stop with the change to slicks, but the wing gave out and Fernando found himself in the gravel. It turned out to be the wrong decision and was a huge blow for his team. Lap 7 and the time was right for a switch to dry tyres, but the McLaren mechanics were ready for their current drivers, not previous ones. Old habits proved hard to beat for Lewis, but provided a source of amusement for McLaren. It wasn't the only pit lane misdemeanor. Jean-Eric Vergne was released into the path of Charles Pic. Toro Rosso received a fine for the unsafe release of their driver, which caused the collision. Webber had taken the lead at the first round of stops. Now his teammate was getting frustrated.
Mark is too slow, get him out of the way. He's too slow.
Understood. Look after your tyres, do your best.
Things hadn't gone well for Force India. Both cars had been delayed by the captive wheel nut system at the first round of stops. The problem recurred at the second, so as a precaution, they retired Paul and Adrian.
Okay, Jensen, box this lap, box this lap.
Jensen was in for his third stop, given the green light to go, but there'd been an issue with the wheel gun.
Stop.
It was a delay he really didn't need. Repeating his Melbourne victory wasn't on the cards for Raikkonen. He squabbled over 8th with Hulkenberg.
You see what he's doing? He's pushing me off and now he hits me.
Kimi was relegated 3 places for impeding Rosberg in qualifying and just lacked pace in the race. But finally, he did it. Lap 43, race leader Webber was the last of the top 4 to pit for a 4th time. Crucially, he still led from his teammate. Their rivalry was well documented. When it came to fighting each other, neither would concede.
Careful, Sebastian, careful.
But the battle continued, and neither driver was willing to relinquish position. So the team had to intervene.
Sebastian, multi-map 2-1, multi-map 2-1, and look after your tyres, please.
Red Bull wasn't the only team with their drivers battling for supremacy. Rosberg made a move on Hamilton. But Lewis came straight back at him and reclaimed 3rd. Nico protested on the radio, but when the Mercedes drivers were told to hold position, they did just that. But Christian Horner wasn't getting the response he expected.
Come on, Sebastian, you need to give him the space. Hold position. This is silly, Seb, come on.
Yep, that's good feedback.
Okay, Mark, he was told. He was told.
But Sebastian made a move that would keep everyone talking.
Sebastian.
I was really scared. All of the penalty was moving, but I had to leave the line. To repeat, I had to get over the line. He didn't leave me any space.
Their simmering tensions had boiled over once again. So it was a Red Bull 1-2, but it was Sebastian who led Marc, and that's how it remained until the checkered flag. With Hamilton still ahead of Rosberg. Marc made his feelings abundantly clear.
Good job, Sebastian. Good job. Looked like you wanted it bad enough. Still, there'll be some explaining to do.
That was something of an understatement. The usual happy faces were absent from the pit wall. Webber's dad and mechanics had to settle for second. The controversial win put Vettel at the top of the table, while Rosberg, Hülkenberg, Perez and Vergne opened their 2013 accounts. Alonso's early exit saw his championship position plummet. But as Ferrari's fortunes faltered, for McLaren things were even worse. With just 4 points, they slumped behind Sauber. Red Bull moved ahead of the field, but whether their drivers could ever move on from this remained to be seen.
Just the middle. What's it?
Multi-21, sir. Yeah, multi-21.
It would soon be time to face the music. The body language said it all. Once the champagne celebrations were over, there would be much to talk about as a team.
I think if there's something to say, we need to talk internally, but for sure I think we both enjoyed that. Of course, I'm standing in the middle now, so I enjoyed it probably a little bit more, but yeah, I think we have plenty of time to talk about.
After this last stop, obviously the team told me that the race was over, and we turned the engines down, and now we go to the end. So I won a race as well, but in the end the team made a decision, which we always say before the start of the race is probably how it's going to be. We look after the tyres, get the car to the end, and in the end Seb made his own decisions today, and we'll have protection as usual, and that's the way it goes.
Clearly, Marc hadn't enjoyed it as much as Seb. Out of the spotlight, their impromptu debrief began. Sebastian made his point, but Marc wasn't interested in excuses.
I think, as you can see, I'm not entirely happy. I think I did a big mistake today. I think we should have stayed in the positions that we were, and I didn't ignore it on purpose, but I messed up in that situation, and obviously took the lead from Marc, which I can see now he's upset, but yeah, I want to be honest at least and stick to the truth and apologize. I know that it doesn't really help his feelings right now, but I think other than that, obviously a very good race for the team. We handled the tyres, I think, pretty well today, so to sum it up, apologies to Marc, and obviously now the result is there, but yeah, all I can say is that I didn't do it deliberately.
But it wasn't only infighting at Red Bull that hit the headlines. Rosberg and Hamilton were embroiled in their own battle.
In terms of our situation in Malaysia, I think there are some similarities with Christian's situation. We had, certainly Lewis was very tight on fuel, and Nico was low as well, not as bad as Lewis, but still not in great shape. So it seemed that it could lead to a problem if we had both drivers racing each other, because one gets past, then you can slipstream and use the DRS and start saving fuel, and you get past. And I could foresee a situation where it could get very delicate at the end. And for me, there wasn't a great deal to gain.
I can go so much faster. Just let me drive past.
Negative. Negative, Nico. Nico, Lewis's pace is what we're asking him to do. He could go a lot faster as well, so he's being controlled as well.
Turn the speed up a bit, this is too slow.
Nico, please drop back, leave a gap. We have to look after the cars. There's a massive gap behind and there's nothing to gain in front. I want to bring these cars home, please. It's a very emotional situation when you tell a driver that he has to back off, and he's got the bit between his teeth and he's charging and feels he's got an opportunity. That's what they're there for. And I think I said afterwards, I would have been disappointed if he hadn't been upset, because they're very, very competitive individuals, and that's what we pay them for.
It's going to be a long weekend, isn't it?
Mark had moved on, but in China, the story still dominated in the media.
How would you define your relationship with him right now? And do you think you could count on his support as a teammate for your own championship bid later in the season?
Well, that's more or less the same question Lee raised. I think, being completely honest, I never had support from his side. So I've got, a lot of support from the team, and I think the team is supporting both of us the same way. But, in terms of relationship to Mark, I respect him a lot as a racing driver. But I think there were more than one occasions in the past where he could have helped the team, and he didn't.
Was that why you did it then? Was that why you ignored the team orders and overtook him?
I explained to you why I did it, but whether you believe me or not is on a different page.
But you've just said that Mark hasn't helped the team. He didn't help you in Brazil when you most needed his help. Were you paying him back for that?
Probably you could say indirectly so, but as I tried to explain to you after the race, in my opinion, it's always best to be truthful. Maybe sometimes the truth is not what the people want to hear, because, as you can see, controversy is more popular than the truth. But I told you after the race what happened. I was racing, so as a racing driver, I was solely focused on winning the race. I got a call on the radio, which I heard, but I didn't understand at the time. I should have understood. That's why I apologized to the team, because with my action, I put myself above the team, but that wasn't the intention. Whether you believe me or not is up to you.
The rivalry between the two Red Bull drivers was nothing new. In Turkey 2010, they famously collided, and Sebastian failed to finish the race.
What the f*** are we doing here? We're wanting to run with the championship. What a stupid action! I'm going home.
In Belgium 2012, Sebastian appeared to be asking the team to intervene. At the final race of the 2012 season, it was Vettel versus Alonso for a third world title. Sebastian had been last on the opening lap, but had fought his way back and needed the help of his teammate.
Multi-12. Multi-12.
Which switch is that, mate? Which switch? Where's the multi?
Let Sebastian go, please, Mark.
It certainly seemed that by now both drivers understood the command.
Multi-21's in. Yeah, multi-21.
Team orders are legal in Formula One. What's the point in them, though, if one driver doesn't listen to it? Can you trust Sebastian? Will you trust him, or will you just race now from lights to flag?
Yeah, I think the racing now is probably going to be more open in the future. Dietrich has given some people in certain positions in the team are probably going to allude to that the racing will probably be a little bit more open. But the chances of us getting into these scenarios are always so small. You know, it's very, very rare that it's happened. And when it does, it's always a bit of a hot point because, you know, we've seen in the past that it has been sticky to handle the situation. So, but although I've tested the system, I haven't gone through with it. But obviously Malaysia was a bit different.
Sebastian's apologised. He's kind of gone back on that within the last 24 hours, saying he exists to win. That's why he's employed. Looking at what happened in that race, the fact that Christian said not to pass and he ultimately did, is Sebastian still accountable in the team? Does Christian still run the show if Christian's not being listened to on the pit wall?
So a great question for Christian.
Formula One being both a team and a driver's sport, the drivers are still team employees. How do you intend to make him understand that his position is as your employee, not as somebody who has the right to decide whether or not to follow your orders?
Well, I don't think Sebastian for one moment thinks he runs the team. He knows what his job is. He knows what we employ him to do. He knows, you know, why we employ him to do it. And he's been, you know, with Red Bull for a long time now, as a junior driver and as a Formula One driver and now as a multiple world champion. And he recognises more than anybody the value that the team has behind the success that he's achieved in the car. And he knows he can't operate without the team. So he doesn't put himself above the team or think that he's running the team for one moment. He's made a decision in a race as a hungry driver that obviously based that decision on all kinds of emotions at that point in time. And, you know, I think that he's made his position clear, that he's apologised to the team, he's apologised to myself. You know, it's happened, and we move on, but it doesn't change anything.
If Webber was hoping for a change in fortunes in Shanghai, then it wasn't to be. Insufficient fuel was put in his car, he stopped out on track, and he was excluded from qualifying. And Alonso. But with Kimi next to him and Fernando just behind, it wasn't going to be easy. Changes were made to Webber's car, so he started from the pit lane. But at least he would avoid any first corner incidents. Could Hamilton's first pole for Mercedes become his first win? Could Vettel salvage anything from ninth? Raikkonen was slow, but the Ferraris were flying. They fired up to second and third. Hamilton couldn't ignore the looming Alonso behind. Then it was Massa, Raikkonen, Rosberg, Grosjean, Ricciardo, Button and Vettel. Di Resta's sights were set on Hülkenberg ahead, but that left him closer to his teammate than was wise. The top three were all on a similar strategy, but the Ferraris looked very feisty. Massa watched his teammate take the lead. Then Felipe found his own way around the Mercedes. Red Bull had taken a different approach. Vettel started ninth on new mediums and had plenty of cars to keep him occupied. He got a good run at Rosberg to take seventh, while Gutierrez ran into the back of Sutil. Esteban was out on the spot. Adrian made it back to the pit lane, but with the car in tatters, his race was finished.
That's it, I'm afraid, Adrian. That's it. Engine off, engine off.
Webber was keen to make up time and went into battle with Verne. He committed to the inside, but Jean-Eric got there first. The team couldn't believe it. He would have to pit for a new front wing. And despite the longer stop, his right rear wheel wasn't fitted correctly. In fact, it came off.
Watch out for Mark ahead at the apex.
It was the end of a pretty dismal weekend for Mark, and there would be a 3-place grid penalty in Bahrain for the collision. While all that was going on, Raikkonen and Perez battled over 4th. Kimi sustained front wing damage, but eventually got ahead of the McLaren. Two-stopping Jensen had to look after his tyres and barely blinked when Alonso sized through and into the lead. Lap 29 and Vettel was yet to stop for a second time. Alonso already had and wasn't about to waste any time behind him. Lap 41 and Alonso was in for his third and final stop. He rejoined just behind Vettel again, but was safe in the knowledge that the Red Bull was yet to run the soft tyres. Fernando was in control of this race, and using his fresher tyres, he soon caught Sebastian and eased back into the lead. Raikkonen's earlier third stop leapfrogged him ahead of Hamilton. Then Kimi soon displaced Button for third. Jensen was at the end of a long middle stint, so it was easy pickings for the Lotus. And it wasn't long before Hamilton relegated his former teammate. Andrea Stella could barely contain his emotions. The decision to start on the soft tyres really had paid off. Fernando took his first win since Germany 2012 to the delight of girlfriend Dasha and vice-chairman Piero Ferrari. Vettel's late stop for softs dropped him down to 4th, but he reeled in Hamilton and finished just 2/10 behind the Mercedes. The win threw Alonso right back into the thick of it, while Webber paid the price for failing to finish. Raikkonen clung on to second despite the damage to his car. Grosjean needed to match the pace of his teammate, while Ricciardo was a strong 7th. 5th place for Button helped McLaren finally to make some progress, even if they were now level pegging with Force India. Ferrari made inroads into Red Bull's domination thanks to a turnaround in fortunes.
Yeah, feels great after the retirement in Malaysia. We had some pressure to finish the race, but the 2 races we finished this year, one second place, today the victory. So definitely the start of this 2013 campaign is looking good. So we are very optimistic.
The result saw the Ferrari team in buoyant mood going into the final flyaway event before the European season. Rosberg bounced back and Bahrain saw Mercedes secure their first consecutive pole position since the days of Fangio. There were penalties galore. Gutierrez dropped 5 places after running into Sutil in China, while Webber was relegated 3 places thanks to his run-in with Verne. Debris on the track caused a left rear tyre failure and a replacement gearbox cost Hamilton 5 grid spots. With high track temperatures, it would be a tough race for the tyres. Rosberg made a decent getaway, but so too did Vettel and Alonso, while Di Resta moved ahead of Massa from 5th. Fernando found some space on the outside, which gave him the optimum position for turn 2. Vettel kept a watchful eye. Di Resta was 4th, but Massa and Sutil squabbled over 5th. Their improved pace in qualifying meant the Ferraris were able to fight at the front, but it didn't take long for Vettel to assert his authority and move back into 2nd. Massa and Sutil had come to blows, leaving the Force India dropping back out of contention. Gutierrez found himself on the back of a scrap between the Caterhams, Marussias and Verne. He gained a place at Sutil's expense, but had a narrow escape himself.
Front wing. Copy, box.
Vettel knew that Rosberg was likely to struggle with his tyres, but he couldn't afford too much time looking at his rear wing. Finally, he made it stick. He had to take control before Alonso also overtook the Mercedes.
Okay, Paul, so let's get ourselves past Rosberg.
Di Resta was now 3rd behind Alonso. But protecting the position wasn't the only thing on Ferrari's mind. His DRS was stuck open. He pitted and the team forcibly closed the rear wing. But when he used the DRS next lap, the wing had a mind of its own. So he came straight back to the pits. This time the message was clear. Do not use... The 2009 champion had been the undisputed team leader at the first 3 events. Perez had a point to prove, and he wasn't afraid to make it.
He just hit me up the back. Calm him down.
Okay, Checo, make sure you look after the car. You're doing great.
I am losing a lot of time with this one.
Yeah, understood. You're doing a great job.
Can be paid as soon as possible. This is going to ruin my race if he keeps banging me.
Yeah, I understand, Jensen. Yellow G3, please. Yellow G3.
Jensen didn't need to worry. Perez soon had his hands full with the resurgent Grosjean. Button and Rosberg had just made their 3rd stop.
So close up and pass Massa. Button is the car behind you. He's pitted as well.
Another puncture for Massa meant it was a little less challenging than Mercedes expected. Felipe pitted for a 4th time. While Pirelli investigated another tyre problem. Vettel had such a margin that he was able to pit for a 3rd time without losing the lead. Girlfriend Laura Jordan knew that Paul's hopes of a podium were fading. His engineer remained optimistic.
Grosjean behind in P4 on a fresher set of medium tyres. Race on.
The Force India couldn't match the 3-stopping Lotus and had to settle for 4th. Despite having no DRS, Alonso had passed Perez, but now Checo saw another opportunity to reclaim 7th, and his feisty approach didn't go down well with Fernando.
I think it's very clear in the image. It's very clear.
Hamilton and Webber had been squabbling over 5th position. Now Lewis was back on the attack. It looked like Lewis was through, but Marc wasn't just going to sit back.
Webber on older tyres is really struggling now. We can definitely get him by the end. Keep doing this, you're doing a really good job.
Perez was soon on the prowl. Whereas everything fell into place for the #1 Red Bull.
Sebastian, stay on the racing line. Stay on the racing line. Do not cross pit in, okay? Stay well on the left.
Fantastic, Seb. Fantastic. Great drive. I like your overtaking move, Seb. I told you it would work.
Sebastian celebrated his 2nd win of the season. 2nd and 3rd for Lotus was a great result considering where they had qualified. Vettel extended his lead in the title race. Raikkonen's ability to look after his tyres helped him to stop his way to another 2nd place. The same couldn't be said of Rosberg. 4 stops and a lack of pace were disappointing for the man on pole. It was a timely return to form for Grosjean, while 4th for Di Resta moved Force India ahead of McLaren. Alonso rescued 8th despite not having DRS and making an unscheduled extra stop, but consistency was needed to catch the reigning champions. It was the same top 3 as in Bahrain 2012. But there was plenty of work to do in the break before the start of the European season. McLaren had a lot to think about. They finished the race at the low end of the points again. Their biggest battle seemed to be amongst their drivers in Bahrain. But by Barcelona, they had called a truce.
We had a very good chat, Jenson, myself, but also with Martin and Sam. We sit down after the race and yeah, we discuss. I think we were a bit too aggressive, both of us, between us, and we risked quite a lot for the team to damage the result of the weekend. Especially, we needed so much those points that I think we risked too much. We both apologized to the team, and it's all clear between us. It was a nice chat to have.
They talked through their problems. Now it was time for action. But rain showers on Friday morning limited testing of their major updates. With the team awaiting several different options, it looked like they were still in trouble. The package hadn't worked miracles, with Button 14th and Perez 8th on the grid. There was clearly more work to be done. It was another pole position for Rosberg, but could he avoid a repeat of his slide down the field in Bahrain? He got away well, but Fernando was the man on the move, and he soon gave Vettel a taster of what he had in store for him that afternoon. A lock-up from Lewis gave 2nd place to Sebastian. Into turn 1 and Fernando was still only 5th. Raikkonen proved no problem. Then a bold move on the outside of Hamilton meant the Ferrari was up to 3rd. The Circuit de Catalunya is tough on tyres, and it wasn't long before the Mercedes were in trouble with theirs.
Temperatures rear 17. Just thinking about looking after those tyres.
But it was clear they weren't the only ones struggling to make the tyres go the distance. Rosberg still led from Vettel and Alonso, while Raikkonen had lost more than enough time behind Hamilton. Lewis struggled more than his teammate and was forced to switch to a 4-stop race.
What is going on with this car? No grip.
Yeah, copy that, Lewis. We hear you.
Lap 10, Vettel, Rosberg and Raikkonen all pitted. Nico and Sebastian switched to the hards, while Kimi took on another set of mediums. Alonso had stopped a lap earlier, and with a clear track ahead, he'd managed to get the jump on the Red Bull. And would soon be challenging the Mercedes. Fernando knew that Nico couldn't afford to wreck his tyres defending against him, so when an opportunity arose, he took it. Vettel had to pass Rosberg, and if Alonso thought this would buy him some time, then he was very much mistaken. Sebastian didn't hang about. A disappointing qualifying and a penalty for impeding Webber had made life difficult for Massa, but the Ferrari easily moved ahead. Guido van der Garde was in trouble.
Stop, the wheel is off! What do you want me to do? You want me to stop or come to the pit?
Okay, Guido, try to make it back. Try to make it back.
The damage to his Caterham meant he had to retire. Had feedback.
Sebastian, left front is critical. Left front is what you need to look after.
Raikkonen was on the mediums, Vettel on the hards, and the 2007 world champion knew what he had to do.